Number aliens sent an SOS. But the Deathworlders answered. The distress signal pierced through the cosmic void like a desperate scream, carrying with it the weight of an entire civilization's final hope. On the bridge of the research vessel Times Sanctuary Asterisk, Captain Elena Vasquez stared at the holographic display showing wave patterns unlike anything in their databases. "Captain, this signal. It's not coming from any known human colony," reported Lieutenant Commander Zhang, his fingers dancing across the quantum communication array. The frequency modulation suggests non-human origin, and the mathematical sequences embedded within appear to be some form of universal distress protocol. Elena leaned forward in her command chair, her weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow of the ship's displays. After 30 years exploring the Outer Rim territories, she had seen her share of mysteries, but nothing quite like this. The signal pulsed with an urgency that seemed to transcend species barriers. "How far out is the source?" she asked, already knowing the answer would complicate their current mission. "Approximately 4 light-years, Captain. The signal appears to be originating from the Kepler 442 system. Our long-range sensors indicate a Class M planet in the habitable zone. But..." Zhang hesitated, his expression growing troubled. "But what, Lieutenant Commander? The system is showing massive gravitational anomalies. Something is pulling the planet out of its stable orbit. At current trajectory calculations, the planet will be flung into deep space within 72 standard hours." The bridge fell silent, except for the gentle hum of life support systems. Elena had commanded merchant vessels, exploration ships, and even a brief stint on a military cruiser. But she had never faced a decision quite like this. The Times Sanctuary Times was returning from a successful mineral survey of the Tau Ceti system. Its cargo holds filled with rare earth elements desperately needed by the colonies. Their scheduled return would bring relief to millions of settlers struggling with equipment failures. Dr. Sarah Chen, the ship's xenobiologist, spoke up from her station near the science console. "Captain, I've been analyzing the signal's linguistic components. The mathematics are beautiful, elegant in a way that suggests a highly advanced civilization. But there's something else." She paused, manipulating the holographic display to show complex wave patterns. "The signal contains what I can only describe as emotional resonance, fear, hope, and something that translates roughly to children." Elena felt her chest tighten. In all her years in space, she had learned to trust her instincts, and right now every instinct screamed that they were the only ones close enough to help. She activated the ship-wide communication system. "All hands, this is Captain Vasquez. Report to stations and prepare for course correction. We're changing our heading to investigate a distress signal." Chief Engineer Rodriguez's voice crackled through the intercom from the engine room. "Captain, with respect, we're already running our fusion reactors at 90% capacity from the return journey. A 4-light-year detour will require us to push into the red zone. We could be looking at core containment issues." "Understood, Chief. Do what you have to do. Bridge out." Elena turned to her navigator, Ensign Park, a young officer who had joined their crew fresh from the academy. "Plot a course for the Kepler 442 system, maximum safe velocity." "And Park?" The ensign looked up with bright, eager eyes. "This might be our first contact with an alien species. Make sure our diplomatic protocols are loaded and ready." As the Times Sanctuary Times changed course, its engines burning brighter than they had in months, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that they were rushing towards something that would change everything. The ship's AI, Aria, materialized as a shimmering hologram beside her chair. "Captain, I've completed additional analysis of the distress signal. The beings transmitting this message appear to be highly advanced. Yet their situation suggests they lack the technology to save themselves. This presents an interesting paradox." "Explain." "They possess the capability to transmit across interstellar distances with mathematical precision that rivals our own technology. Yet they cannot resolve a gravitational anomaly affecting their planet. This suggests either a catastrophic system failure or an external threat beyond their current capabilities." Elena nodded grimly. "Or both." "Aria, begin preparing emergency aid protocols. Medical supplies. Engineering teams. Evacuation procedures. I want options ready before we arrive. The next 18 hours passed in a blur of activity. The crew worked with the focused intensity that came from knowing lives hung in the balance. Dr. Chen collaborated with the linguistics AI to develop potential communication protocols, while the engineering teams pushed the ship's systems to their absolute limits. As they approached the Kepler 442 system, the true scope of the crisis became apparent. The planet, which their databases had catalogued as a stable world with advanced atmospheric conditions suitable for life, was indeed being pulled from its orbit by what appeared to be an artificial gravitational field generator of enormous proportions. "My God," whispered Dr. Chen as the main viewer showed their destination. The planet was beautiful, with swirling blue oceans and green land masses clearly visible even from their distance, but surrounding it was a massive ring-shaped structure, easily the size of Earth's moon, pulsing with ominous red energy. "That's not natural," stated Commander Zhang unnecessarily. "The energy readings are off the charts. Whatever that thing is, it's powerful enough to move planets." Elena studied the tactical display, her mind racing through possibilities. Any signs of the beings who sent the distress call? "Scanning now, Captain. I'm detecting multiple population centers on the planet's surface, each showing signs of advanced civilization. Cities with millions of inhabitants, transportation networks, energy distribution systems. But Captain," Zhang's voice grew strained, "I'm also detecting multiple ship signatures near that ring structure. They're not from the planet." The implications hit everyone on the bridge simultaneously. This wasn't a natural disaster or system failure. This was an invasion. "Red alert. All hands to battle stations," Elena commanded. Though she knew their single research vessel would be no match for whatever force had built that gravitational weapon. "Area. Analyze those ship signatures. I want to know what we're dealing with." "Analysis complete, Captain. I count 47 vessels of unknown configuration, each approximately twice the size of the Times Sanctuary asterisk. Their energy signatures suggest advanced weapon systems and defensive capabilities. However, they appear to be focused entirely on the planet and have not detected our presence." Elena made a decision that would have seemed insane to anyone watching from the outside. "Take us closer. Use the asteroid field for cover and get us within communication range of the planet." As the Times Sanctuary Times carefully navigated through the debris field left behind by the gravitational weapons activation, Dr. Chen successfully established contact with the planet's surface. The first image that appeared on their main viewer would haunt Elena for the rest of her life. The alien beings were humanoid but distinctly different. With elongated limbs, large eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of ages, and skin that shimmered with an inner light. But it was the expression of desperate hope on the face of the being addressing them that struck Elena most profoundly. "Unknown vessel?" The transmission began, the universal translator working frantically to convert the alien language into something they could understand. "I am Council Leader Zara Thek of the Ethereal Collective. Your arrival gives us hope we thought lost. We have detected your ship's composition and energy signature. You are from the world the galaxy knows as Terra, are you not? The death world that spawned the warriors?" Elena felt her eyebrows rise in surprise. "Death world?" Dr. Chen leaned forward excitedly. "Captain, they know about Earth, but their terminology suggests they view our planet as exceptionally dangerous." Zarathek continued. "We know of your species' reputation. You are the ones who evolve in impossible conditions, who thrive where others perish, who fight when all hope is lost. We have intercepted transmissions from other civilizations speaking of humanity's recent emergence into the galactic community. They call you Deathworlders because you come from a planet that would kill most sapient species within hours." Elena keyed the communication system. "Council Leader Zarathek, this is Captain Elena Vasquez of the Earth vessel Times Sanctuary asterisk. We received your distress call and came as quickly as possible. What is your situation?" The alien's large eyes seemed to fill with tears. "The hegemony has come for us, Captain. They seek to harvest our world's unique crystalline formations, which amplify psychic energy. To obtain them, They will strip our planet bare and relocate us to reservation worlds. We are a peaceful people, Captain Vasquez. We have no weapons capable of opposing them. They gave us 3 solar cycles to evacuate voluntarily, or they would remove us by force. Elena felt her jaw clench. Throughout human history, she had read about powerful forces displacing indigenous populations for resources. To see it happening on a galactic scale filled her with familiar rage. How long do you have before the gravitational weapon makes your planet uninhabitable? Less than 1 solar cycle. The weapon will destabilize our core, causing massive seismic activity before ejecting us into the cold void. 40 million of our people will die unless we can stop the hegemony or evacuate completely. Elena looked around her bridge crew, seeing the same determination in their eyes that she felt burning in her chest. Council leader, we need detailed information about the hegemony forces, their technology, and any potential weaknesses. We're going to help you. Zarathek's expression shifted to one of confused concern. Captain, your vessel is impressive, but it is 1 ship against 47. The hegemony has conquered dozens of worlds. Their technology is centuries ahead of what our intelligence suggests humanity possesses. We do not ask you to sacrifice yourselves for us. Elena smiled grimly. Council leader, I think there are some things about humanity that haven't made it into galactic intelligence reports yet. We specialize in impossible odds. Elena smiled grimly. As the Time Sanctuary Times continued its approach under cover of the asteroid field, Elena began formulating a plan that would either save 40 million innocent beings or get her entire crew killed in the process. But as she watched the hegemony ships methodically positioning themselves around the beautiful alien world, she knew they had to try. The universe was about to learn why Earth was called a death world, and why the beings who evolved there never backed down from a fight, no matter how hopeless it seemed. The Death Worlder's Gambit. Captain Vasquez stood in the Times Sanctuary's cramped war room, surrounded by holographic displays showing every detail of the hegemony fleet's positioning. Her senior staff had been working for 6 hours straight, fueled by coffee and determination, developing what most military strategists would call a suicide mission. Let me make sure I understand this correctly, said Dr. Chen, rubbing her tired eyes. We're going to take on a fleet of 47 advanced warships with a single research vessel that carries mining lasers and survey drones. That's the general idea, Elena replied, manipulating the tactical display to highlight weak points in the hegemony formation. But we're not going to fight them conventionally. We're going to do what humans do best. Adapt, improvise, and use every dirty trick in the book. Chief Engineer Rodriguez leaned forward, his weathered hands gesturing toward the ship schematics. Captain, I've been running calculations. Our mining lasers were designed to cut through asteroids, not military-grade armor. Even if we modified them to their maximum output, we'd barely scratch their hulls. That's why we're not using the lasers as weapons, Elena said with a smile that would have made pirates proud. We're using them as tools. Arya, show them the geological survey data from the asteroid field. The AI's hologram shifted the display to show detailed compositions of the surrounding debris. The asteroid field contains significant quantities of compressed metallic hydrogen, frozen methane, and crystalline structures with unique resonant properties. Additionally, several of the larger asteroids show signs of ancient volcanic activity, containing pockets of volatile gases under extreme pressure. Lieutenant Commander Zhang's eyes widened as he began to understand. You want to turn the asteroid field into a weapons platform? Exactly. The hegemony chose this position because they thought the asteroids would provide cover for their gravitational weapon. They didn't consider that those same asteroids could be used against them. Elena highlighted several key asteroids on the display. Rodriguez, how long would it take to rig mining charges in the largest asteroids? Enough to create a chain reaction? With the equipment we have? Maybe 4 hours if we push hard. But Captain, the timing would have to be perfect. One miscalculation, and we'd be caught in our own trap. Dr. Chen was studying the communication logs from the planet's surface. Captain, I've been analyzing the Ethereal Collective's technology. They're incredibly advanced in biotechnology and psychic amplification, but they've never developed weapons. It's not in their nature. However, they have something the hegemony wants badly enough to commit a fleet to obtain: the psychic crystals. What exactly do they do? From what I can determine, they can amplify mental energy across vast distances. The ethereals use them for communication, healing, and what they call harmony maintenance, essentially keeping their global civilization in peaceful balance. But in the wrong hands. Elena nodded grimly. They could be used to control minds across star systems. No wonder the hegemony wants them so badly. She activated the ship-wide communication system. All hands, this is the captain. In approximately 4 hours, we're going to attempt something that will either go down in history as humanity's first major intervention in galactic affairs, or as the most spectacular failure in space exploration. Either way, we're going to give those bastards a fight they'll never forget. The next few hours transformed the Time's sanctuary times from a peaceful research vessel into something resembling a guerrilla warfare command center. The crew worked with the focused intensity that came from knowing they were the only thing standing between 40 million innocent beings and forced relocation or death. Ensign Park, despite being the youngest member of the crew, proved invaluable in coordinating the mining drone operations. Her fresh academy training in drone swarm tactics allowed her to program their survey drones to work in ways their designers had never intended. "Captain, I've reprogrammed 15 mining drones to carry modified charges," Park reported, her voice steady despite the magnitude of their situation. "Each one can precisely place explosives in asteroid weak points. The detonation sequence will create a cascade effect, turning the entire field into a debris storm moving at high velocity toward the hegemony formation." Meanwhile, Dr. Chen had established continuous communication with the ethereal collective, gathering crucial intelligence about hegemony, technology, and tactics. What she discovered was both encouraging and terrifying. "Captain, according to Zarathek, the hegemony has conquered 17 worlds in the past 50 years. They follow a standard pattern: overwhelming technological superiority, psychological warfare through demonstrations of power, and then forced compliance. They've never encountered significant resistance because most civilizations surrender once they see the gravitational weapon in action. But they've never dealt with Deathworlders before," Elena replied, checking the tactical display one more time. "What about their shield technology?" "That's where it gets interesting. Their shields are incredibly effective against energy weapons and conventional projectiles, but they're designed to deflect, not absorb. A sustained barrage of irregular debris might overload their deflection matrices." Chief Rodriguez's voice crackled through the intercom from the engine room. "Captain, I've finished the modifications to our fusion reactor. We can now channel excess plasma directly through the mining laser arrays. It won't make them more powerful, but it will make them incredibly visible. Should look like we're firing massive energy weapons." "Khan." Elena smiled. "Perfect. We need them to think we're more dangerous than we actually are." "Arya, any changes in hegemony positioning?" "Negative, Captain. They maintain their standard formation around the gravitational weapon. However, I have detected increased communication traffic between their vessels. They appear to be discussing the approaching deadline for the planet's evacuation. How long do we have before they activate the weapon?" "Approximately 14 hours, Captain." Elena took a deep breath. It was time to roll the dice. "All stations, prepare for Operation Asteroid Storm. Dr. Chen, open a channel to the hegemony flagship." The main viewer flickered and then displayed the bridge of what was obviously an advanced warship. The being addressing them was humanoid but clearly not human. Taller, with grayish skin, 4 arms, and eyes that held the cold calculation of a military commander who had conquered worlds. "I am War Commander Thexkar of the Hegemony Third Fleet," the being said. Its voice translated into something resembling a mechanical growl. "You will identify yourself and state your business in this system." Elena straightened in her command chair, projecting every ounce of authority she had developed over 3 decades in space. This is Captain Elena Vasquez, of the Terran vessel Time Sanctuary ***. We are here to offer the hegemony an opportunity to withdraw from this system peacefully. The alien's four eyes blinked in what might have been surprise, then narrowed in what was definitely anger. Terran? The Death World species that recently achieved spaceflight? You dare to threaten the hegemony with a single primitive vessel? I'm not threatening you, War Commander. I'm offering you a chance to avoid unnecessary casualties. Withdraw your fleet, and we'll consider this a misunderstanding. Thexkar's laugh was a harsh sound that needed no translation. Primitive Deathworlders, your species' reputation for violence is well known. But violence without overwhelming force is merely suicide. We have 47 ships of the line against your single research vessel. Withdraw now, or be destroyed along with the ethereals who foolishly called for your help. Elena leaned forward, her voice dropping to a dangerous calm that her crew had learned to recognize over the years. War Commander, I think there's been a misunderstanding. You see, humans didn't become the dominant species on a death world by having overwhelming force. We did it by being too stubborn to know when we're beaten. Let me show you what that looks like. She cut the transmission and immediately activated the operation. All stations, execute asteroid storm. Park. Launch the drones. Rodriguez. Begin plasma, channeling to the mining arrays. Zhang. Target the asteroid charges for sequential detonation. The next few minutes unfolded with clockwork precision born from humanity's greatest strength. The ability to plan meticulously, while adapting instantly to changing circumstances. The mining drones swarmed through the asteroid field like mechanical bees, each one placing precisely calculated charges in optimal positions. From the hegemony's perspective, they suddenly found themselves facing something unprecedented. The single human ship had launched what appeared to be dozens of attack drones. Its weapon systems were charging to levels that registered as military-grade plasma cannons, and energy readings throughout the asteroid field suggested massive weapons emplacements coming online. Captain, reported Zhang with barely contained excitement, the hegemony fleet is moving to intercept our drones. They're treating them as a legitimate threat. Perfect. Begin mining laser light show. Make it look like we're charging for a massive energy strike. The Times Sanctuary's Times modified mining lasers began generating brilliant streams of superheated plasma that painted space in brilliant colors. To anyone watching from a distance, it appeared that the small research vessel was powering weapons capable of cracking planets. War Commander Thexkar's face reappeared on the viewer, no longer showing amusement. Deathworlder ship, you will power down your weapons immediately. This is your final warning before we open fire. Elena smiled coldly. War Commander, your 47 ships are about to learn why Earth is called a death world. It's not because our environment is hostile, it's because we are. She turned to her crew. Detonate the charges. The asteroid field exploded in a carefully choreographed sequence that turned thousands of tons of space debris into high-velocity projectiles aimed directly at the hegemony formation. The aliens' shields deflected the first wave easily, just as Elena had expected. The second wave stressed their deflection matrices. The third wave began to overwhelm their defensive capabilities. But it was the fourth wave that changed everything. Dr. Chen had been right about the hegemony shields. They were designed to deflect, not absorb. When faced with a sustained barrage of irregular debris moving at different velocities and vectors, their sophisticated defensive systems began to fail in ways their designers had never anticipated. Multiple shield failures detected across the hegemony fleet, reported Arya with what sounded suspiciously like satisfaction. Several vessels are reporting hull breaches. Elena watched the tactical display as chaos erupted through the enemy formation. Ships that had never faced serious resistance were suddenly dealing with hull breaches, system failures, and the psychological shock of facing an opponent who refused to be intimidated by superior numbers. Open a channel to War Commander Thexkar, she ordered. The alien commander appeared on screen, his bridge now showing signs of damage and his four arms working frantically at control stations. How? How are you doing this with primitive technology? Elena leaned back in her chair, projecting calm confidence she didn't entirely feel. War Commander. That's the thing about Deathworlders. We don't fight fair. We don't follow rules that put us at a disadvantage. and we never, ever give up. Now, I'm going to make you an offer one more time. Withdraw your fleet, leave the ethereals alone, and we'll consider this a learning experience for all involved. Thexkar's expression cycled through rage, calculation, and what might have been respect. This is not over, Deathworlder. The hegemony will remember this. I'm counting on it, Elena replied as the hegemony ships began powering down their gravitational weapon and moving away from the planet. As the immediate threat receded, Elena allowed herself a moment of relief before remembering that their real work was just beginning. They had won the battle. But the war for galactic freedom had only just started. Number: The Galactic Awakening. 3 weeks after the Battle of Kepler 442, Captain Elena Vasquez found herself in the most unlikely situation of her career. Sitting in the council chamber of the Ethereal Collective, surrounded by representatives from 12 different alien civilizations, all wanting to know how a single human ship had defeated the hegemony Third Fleet. The crystalline amphitheater was a marvel of alien architecture, with walls that pulsed gently with bioluminescent patterns that seemed to respond to the emotions of the speakers. Council leader Zarathek had explained that the crystals helped maintain harmony during discussions by allowing participants to literally feel each other's emotional states. Elena found it both fascinating and slightly overwhelming. Every time someone felt surprise, fear, or hope, she could sense it as a gentle pressure against her consciousness. It was no wonder the ethereals were such a peaceful species. It would be nearly impossible to maintain hostility when you could feel your opponent's pain as clearly as your own. Captain Vasquez, spoke Ambassador Kelleth from the Rigelian Trade Union, their crystalline form refracting light in complex patterns. Our intelligence networks indicate that word of humanity's victory has spread throughout the hegemony's conquered territories. 17 worlds are reporting uprisings, and 3 have successfully expelled hegemony occupation forces. How do you explain this rapid collapse of their authority? Elena looked around the chamber, noting the mix of hope and fear in the aliens' expressions. Ambassador, the hegemony's power was built on the perception that resistance was futile. When we showed that they could be beaten, that perception shattered. Tyrants throughout history have shared the same weakness. They can only maintain control as long as people believe they're invincible. Dr. Chen, who had become something of a celebrity among xenobiologists throughout the galaxy, added her perspective from the observation platform. What Captain Vasquez accomplished wasn't just a military victory, it was a demonstration of human problem-solving methodology. We don't just fight harder, we fight differently. A new voice entered the discussion, causing ripples of unease throughout the chamber. Representative Mordoon of the Hegemony Embassy stood, his 4 arms moving in what Elena had learned were gestures of formal respect. Honored beings, Mordoon began, his mechanical translator giving his words an oddly formal tone. I come before you with an official statement from the Hegemony High Council. The engagement at Kepler 442 has been. We formally request a cessation of hostilities and the opening of diplomatic relations with the Terran Republic. Elena felt her eyebrows rise. I'm surprised the hegemony wants to negotiate with primitive Deathworlders. Mordoon's expression was impossible to read, but his emotional emanation through the chamber's crystals carried something that felt like carefully controlled fear. Captain, in the 3 weeks since your victory, we have lost control of more territory than we had conquered in the previous 5 years. Your species' reputation has grown, significantly. There are reports of human merchant vessels being treated with the same deference previously reserved for hegemony warships. 3 civilizations have petitioned Earth for protection treaties, and our intelligence suggests that several others are developing what they call Deathworlder tactics for their own defense forces. Zarathek's large eyes focused on Elena with an expression of wonder. Captain, do you understand what you have accomplished? For the first time in galactic history, the smaller civilizations have hope. The hegemony built their empire by convincing everyone that resistance meant extinction. You have shown us that it means freedom. Elena stood, feeling the weight of responsibility that came with representing her entire species in these discussions. Representative Mordoon, if the hegemony wants peace, they need to demonstrate good faith. Start by withdrawing from all occupied worlds and paying reparations for the damage they've caused. After that, we can discuss trade agreements and mutual defense pacts. Captain, Mordoon replied carefully. You speak as though you have the authority to negotiate for your entire species. Elena smiled grimly. Representative, something else you should understand about humans. We don't always wait for official authorization when lives are at stake. My actions at Kepler 442 have been ratified by Earth's Planetary Council. I am authorized to negotiate preliminary agreements on behalf of the Terran Republic. What Elena didn't mention was the constant stream of communications she had been receiving from Earth. The Planetary Council was simultaneously proud of her actions and terrified of the galactic attention they had attracted. Earth's military was scrambling to build a fleet capable of backing up the reputation Elena had created, while diplomats worked frantically to establish formal relationships with the alien civilizations now requesting Earth's protection. Ambassador Kelleth's crystalline form pulsed with what Elena had learned indicated excitement. Captain, the Rigelian Trade Union would like to propose a formal alliance. Our manufacturing capabilities, combined with human tactical innovation, could provide a strong foundation for galactic stability, and the Centaurian Science Collective offers immediate sharing of our research into faster-than-light communication, added another representative. We believe human ingenuity could help us achieve breakthroughs that have eluded us for centuries. Elena felt the emotional resonance in the chamber shift from fear and uncertainty to hope and determination. It was intoxicating, but also humbling. 48 hours ago, she had been a simple cargo ship captain. Now she was inadvertently architecting what could become a galactic alliance. Before we discuss alliances and treaties, Elena said, raising her hand for attention, we need to address the immediate situation. The hegemony still controls dozens of worlds, and their withdrawal won't happen overnight. We need to establish protocols for protecting vulnerable civilizations during the transition period. Dr. Chen stepped forward, her tablet displaying complex strategic analyses. Based on our studies of hegemony expansion patterns, we've identified 12 worlds that are at immediate risk of retaliation. These civilizations have the greatest potential for successful resistance, but lack the military capability to defend themselves against hegemony expeditionary forces. Zarathek's emotional emanation carried deep concern. Dr. Chen, the Ethereal Collective would gladly offer sanctuary to these threatened populations. But our world lacks defensive capabilities. We are healers and harmonizers, not warriors. Which is exactly why this alliance needs to work, Elena replied. Every civilization has strengths. The Ethereals excel at biotechnology and communication. The Rigelians have manufacturing capabilities that could supply a dozen worlds. The Centaurians have scientific knowledge that could revolutionize defense systems. Humans. She paused, considering how to phrase humanity's contribution diplomatically. Humans specialize in turning limited resources into effective solutions. Representative Mordoon's forearms moved in what Elena had learned was an expression of grudging respect. Captain, the Hegemony High Council has authorized me to make a preliminary offer. We will begin withdrawal from the 12 worlds Dr. Chen identified, in exchange for guaranteed safe passage for our administrative and military personnel. We also propose the establishment of neutral trade stations, where our civilizations can interact without the complications of historical grievances. Elena looked around the chamber, feeling the hope and fear warring in the emotional resonance of the crystalline walls. This was the moment that would determine whether her actions led to lasting peace or merely delayed a larger conflict. Representative Mordoon, I'll consider your proposal under one condition. The hegemony must demonstrate their commitment to peace by assisting with the reconstruction of worlds they've damaged. Your technology got us into this situation. It can help get us out. The negotiations continued for another 6 hours, with Elena finding herself in the surreal position of mediating between civilizations that had been at war for longer than humans had possessed spaceflight. But gradually, the framework of an agreement began to emerge. The hegemony would withdraw from occupied worlds over a period of 2 years, providing technological assistance for reconstruction efforts. The emerging alliance of smaller civilizations would establish a mutual defense pact, with Earth serving as the military coordinator due to humanity's demonstrated tactical capabilities. Trade agreements would be established to ensure economic stability during the transition period. As the formal ceremonies concluded, Zarathek approached Elena privately. the emotional resonance between them carrying deep gratitude mixed with concern. "Captain, you have given us more than freedom. You have given us hope. But I must ask, are your people prepared for what comes next? The galaxy will look to humanity for leadership in ways that your species may not expect or welcome." Elena looked out through the chamber's crystalline walls at the stars beyond, thinking of the Times, Sanctuary Times, and her crew, who had started this chain of events by simply responding to a distress call. "Zarathek, humans have a saying, with great power comes great responsibility. 3 weeks ago, we thought we were just answering an SOS. Now we're apparently the galaxy's new peacekeepers. Does that concern you?" Elena smiled, feeling the same determination that had driven her to challenge the hegemony fleet with a single research vessel. "Zarathek, humans have been overcoming impossible odds since we first looked up at the stars and decided we belonged there. The galaxy might call Earth a death world, but it's also the world that taught us never to abandon someone who needs help." 6 months later, as Elena stood on the bridge of the newly commissioned UES Times Defiance *, Earth's first purpose-built diplomatic vessel, she watched the main viewer display the signing ceremony for the Galactic Cooperation Treaty. Representatives from 47 civilizations gathered on the neutral station they had constructed at the edge of former hegemony space. "Captain," reported Commander Zhang from his position at the communications station, "Earth Command is requesting a status update on the Andorian situation." Elena sighed. The Andorian crisis was just the latest in a series of conflicts that seemed to find their way to humanity's attention. It seemed that once word had spread about Earth's willingness to help underdog civilizations, every oppressed species in the galaxy had started sending distress calls. "Tell Earth Command we'll have a full report after we've assessed the situation." And Zhang? She turned to look at her old friend, who had followed her from the Times, Sanctuary Times, to this new ship and its expanded mission. "Make sure our response includes a complete tactical analysis. I have a feeling we're going to need to get creative again." Dr. Chen looked up from her xenobiology station with the expression Elena had learned meant she had discovered something fascinating. "Captain, you should see these communication intercepts from the hegemony border territories. They're calling humanity the shepherds. Protectors who appear whenever the weak are threatened by the strong. The shepherds, the quoting of the shepherds." Elena smiled, remembering a distress call that had changed everything, and a crew that had been willing to risk everything to answer it. "Dr. Chen, there are worse things to be remembered for. Set course for the Andorian system. Let's see what kind of impossible odds we're dealing with this time." As the Times Defiance Times turned toward its next challenge, Elena reflected on how a simple answer to an alien SOS had transformed not just humanity's place in the galaxy, but the galaxy itself. The universe had learned that Deathworlders didn't just fight harder. They fought for something worth fighting for. And sometimes, that made all the difference.